You like the look? I'm gonna try.
Is yours
I'm just trying to be more like you guys.
is yours more or less gray than you expected?
It is a little gray. I just noticed. I need a. What is it? A touch of gray?
Yeah, touch of gray. Yeah. Distinguished.
The distinguished look.
Yeah, I'll say it. The ladies are thinking it. I'll say it. Probably thinking it. I'm not-
All right, what do we got? What do you guys? I don't know. What do y'all want to know? We got practice. My opening statement. Yeah. No, I don't really have any opening statements. We got practice starting a week from today. I think it's a week from today, right? I'm going through kind of calendar. I always get caught on different days of the week and all that stuff. But we're ready. I mean, I'm excited to get out there, go practice, get our guys in the field. See, I think we've had a pretty good offseason. Guys making some pretty good gains this offseason, physical gains, and then we got to translate that on to performance on the field. So always exciting to get back out there, use the 15 practices that we get to see how guys develop and and evaluate different strengths and weaknesses of the players and where we're at as a team and see what type of team we're going to have this year. So it'll be fun to get out there and do that. What do you? Well, we're there a bunch, our coaches, because we do spend a lot of time with our program around the guys. But I think it's been a pretty really. I mean, everything I hear in everyone I talk to and how we talk, in every part of the program, it's been a pretty positive off season with guys. I mean, we get around some of the workouts, but both on and off the field, it's been a pretty positive off season for our guys with performance in the classroom. How we've handled things, our Gator Life program been real positive, and then guys getting bigger, faster, stronger, and then just overall general team attitude's been very positive throughout the offseason.
Dan, are there any 2 or 3 players that you might single out who've really impressed you with what they've done in the offseason?
Not really, no. I'll see when we start playing football. Everybody's had a good offseason, so I don't it would be more maybe people that wouldn't impress. That would stand out at me. People that don't impress would stand out more than who impress. Everybody should impress me in making huge gains in the offseason, and there really hasn't been anybody that hasn't impressed me. That would stand out more to me.
Also, your offensive line, you're going to have more offensive linemen available for spring than you've ever had before. Would you talk about your offensive line and their development?
Well, I think one of it allows you to practice a certain way, the right way, to finally have a little bit of depth at that position where we can really practice. If you just don't have, hard to practice if you don't have any offensive linemen, and put people in. You can't just like throw somebody in there. You know what I mean? And just take a rep because it'll throw off the scheme and the play and everything that goes on. So it's good to have that depth to be able to practice the right way and get the right repetitions for us. And that's an important part. I mean, if you want to be successful, you got to be successful along both lines of scrimmage, offensive and defensive line of scrimmage. And to do that, you got to have depth. And so it's good that we're starting to create depth on the line of scrimmage.
When talking about how your team looks physically, when Scott Cochran moves from Alabama to Georgia, is there any worry or concern? Do you call Nick Savage up and make sure he's happy here?
Yeah, well, I think Nick's very happy. Nick is somebody that everybody like a lot of people in the country try to come after for jobs, and I think they look at he's one of the premier strength coach in America, and so I think everybody would love to have Nick Savage, and we're just fortunate to have him, and we got a great relationship. I know he loves being here, loves being a Gator, and like family loves living in Gainesville, so it's great that we have him on board.
Well, we probably annoyed you asking about Brenton Cox a lot last year. It was probably frustrating not to be able to have him play last year, but what do you expect from him this year, and where does he kind of fit in?
We expect a lot from him. I know he's a talented player. It's good to have him. Hopefully they get some of those rules fixed up. It looks like they're talking about those rules, so there's at least consistency in college football. that way. And, one of his teammates, the same exacts, they're in that, like almost identical situations. One's allowed to play, one's not. So, I don't know. But hopefully they just really define that stuff cleaner. But we expect him to have a great spring. He's worked hard, had a great attitude, been really positive in everything he's done, and I want to see him continue to do that moving forward.
Do you have a preference on the rule, or as long as it's uniform? And
I just think I don't. I could sit there and make arguments. I'm not going to get into my personal preference of which one it is. I understand all the arguments. You get to make arguments both sides. I just think it would be much cleaner for everybody if there was here's the rule, and okay, you're immediately eligible and you can play and you get a one-time whatever transfer waiver, or you're not, and there's no waiver process to create, kids to make things up, or one kid gets it, one kid doesn't. I think there should be just a consistency within the rule, whichever one that everyone decides on. We could sit here for hours and I could argue both sides of the case if you want, because I live it on a daily basis, being in there. So I can tell you all the positives and negatives, both sides, but it's I just think it'd be much cleaner for everybody if there was consistency in the rule.
How's Kyle handled his first offseason as a starter?
Yeah, seems to have handled it pretty well. So I know he's got a couple other guys in the room that expect to start next year. So I think he's handled it. He better push himself and continue to work and every day and compete at the highest level so that he can remain in that position. But I think our guys now going into a couple of years, I think even all our guys going into last season handled the situation much better in their preparation, knowing what to expect and knowing how to prepare going through an off season.
Well, that's in terms of the other guys, do they look at what happened last year and the way Kyle handled last year?
Absolutely.
And kind of take that as an example?
At this point, those guys are looking at, hey, I'm trying to win the starting job, and and I think one of the things I think the guys understand in what we do, and one of the things that makes us, I guess, develop the quarterbacks well is how we handle the rotations and all the opportunities everybody gets. Where, everybody basically gets to be the starter going through spring. You're going to get opportunities to go with, it's not like this guy only goes with one group, this guy only goes with one group. We roll them all through, so you get experience playing with different groups to see how you can handle it. So as far as spring ball goes, I think they understand what they're getting into. And then as far as the offseason goes, they understand, hey, these are things I need to do to put myself ready to be. If I want to be a starter, these are the things I need to do to be the starter.
And I know you don't have your whole roster here, obviously, for the spring, but how many players will you have on scholarship about, and is this the most you've had for a spring?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to count it up. I was looking at. I would think that it's probably our best balance of the roster in spring. I don't know the exact numbers. I didn't count the exact numbers, but I go through. One of the things I look at the depth chart and see how many different reps you can get with the 1 huddle, 2 huddle, 3 huddle. And make sure you're balanced with, you like to be at least 3+ deep at every position. You know what I mean by that? You might not have 4 deep at every position, but 3 deep plus an extra guy or two. 3 deep on the offensive line plus a couple extra guys. 3 deep on the D-line plus a couple extra guys that you can handle an injury. And if you're 3 deep plus across the board at every position, it allows just how you set up rotations at practice. And I think we're 3 deep plus to get even practice.
At every spot?
Yeah. And some. You're talking walk-ons, talking everybody. Within a roster, you're looking so that you can rep threes. And so when the threes go on the field to rep, you might luck out there and say, boy, those guys might not play much during the season, even though they're great program players, and they're like, it might see this guy on a special team or two here or there. At times, you have that depth to be able to go practice.
And do you ever coach differently in the spring, knowing that the transfer portal is out there, that guys who don't get the rep,
I think our guys understand. If you watch our practices, everybody gets reps now. One thing guys aren't going to complain about is their reps. They're going to get their reps and their opportunities through spring. And I think if you watch us during the season, I think that's why a lot of guys are happy. How many guys we play in games. and the reps we get in games, right, where we're like one of the top teams in receivers with 20-plus catches last year, total number of receivers with 20-plus catches. And our older guys have really understand and bought into the fact that, hey, if we roll players a bunch, one, I'm healthier throughout the course of the season, and for my career, I get to stay healthy. It gives me opportunity to show what I can do on some special teams at times, and it gets a lot of people experience that get to play more. And so I think a lot of our players look at how we rotate the guys and the number of reps they got, and the younger guys love it because it gives them, instead of just, hey, I'm standing on the sidelines to wait my turn, they're getting reps in games. The older guys look at it and they could sit there and say, well, boy, now you're an older guy. Don't you want to have like every catch and every play? And I think they really, you look at our guys last year, really understood and bought into the fact that sounds great putting up the stats, but you know what, go watch my film and look at how our guys and our receivers, how their draft stocks keep going up and up and up and up for the next level. Because originally everybody looks at it and says, oh, well, you look at the total number of catches, so you must be a high guy. Now when the NFL actually evaluates you because of the health, the freshness, and how our guys were able to play through rotation, it's really increasing their stocks.
But again, you really been working hard to build this roster up, and this is, I would think, going to be the spring where you can kind of see that a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully. I think it is. Hopefully we'll have that. One, you got to stay healthy. You never know. Any team that wants a chance to win has to stay healthy. And, go into next season, you look at the teams that, right, stayed healthy, generally are the teams that have a chance to compete for championships.
Building off that, is year 3 best representative of like what a Dan Mullen team's going to look like? I mean, now that you've had 2-3 years now in the off-season program.
I'm pretty opinionated. I would imagine year 1 was a team that I'd expect Dan Mullen to look like. You're going to come in and say, this is how I like to do it. Our guys bought in right away year 1 for us. So I thought, I don't know if we've had a team that didn't kind of represent my personality yet.
Yeah, fair enough. But I guess now is this where you can traditionally, you guys won in year 2 under Urban, obviously. But is year 3 where you really start to see?
I don't know.
I think,
like I said, I think year 1. Either our guys bought in when I got here, so they kind of bought into what the teams are going to look like. I don't know if we'll look a lot. We're obviously going to look a little bit different on the personality of each team. Like year 1, I think we ran the ball pretty well, and we're an okay passing team. Year 2, we didn't run the ball as well, but we're a really good passing team. That sways. To me, the personality of the team is, do we play with relentless effort? Do we have passion for the game of football? See our guys improving throughout the season? That's really what I view, what my team is that type of team. Do we fit the important personalities of our team? Are we a fast, physical, aggressive defense? Do we utilize the skill and do we utilize the talent of our offense? Spread people out, but utilize the talent to put our guys in a position to be successful offensively, and create advantageous matchups offensively. And do we play with relentless effort in everything we do? I think those are what I would always consider personalities in my team, more than it's this scheme or this one deal. And I think since we've been here, our guys bought into that for what I view as the personality of my teams, more than, hey, this is an offense this is a Dan Mullen offense or a Dan Mullen defense. I think if you go watch, since I've been a head coach, there's different variations of those things, but it's the effort is the thing that's the biggest one for me on my personality.
What's the next step kind of in the evolution for Kyle Trask this spring?
I think there's a big part for him in just the understanding and management of the offense, of how fast he makes decisions, and how fast he makes decisions, how good he makes decisions. I think there's so much to that, the decision-making process of the quarterback, of anticipating, know where to go with the ball, make sure, the ability to get us into the right play and really utilize the offense to his advantage. And with that, whether it's checking protections, whether it's how you're using snap counts, whether it's how you're throwing guys open and when you want to take a chance, when you don't want to take a chance, all of those things are the next step progressions.
How open do you see this quarterback position? I mean, last year.
Always, every position's open.
Well, I know. Last year you said there was no set positions with quarterback, and we kind of maybe rolled our eyes a little bit. But how different is that from this year?
No,
Not
it's
the same?
same difference, same as it is. There's not a position on our team that's not that way, right? That's wide open too. Evan's pretty darn good though. But I want to see what some of the other guys can do. They're coming in, new Zach Sess is a new guy coming in. I want to see what he can do. Yeah, Evan's pretty tough. He could be. If you felt there was one that looks secure, it could be Evan. Huh? But none are. He's still got to go compete. I was just doing practice schedules right now about competitive field goal drills. So we'll see.
Dan, what does Tim Brewster bring to the staff?
Well, Bruce. I mean, Bruce, a guy I've had on staff before, worked with before. He's got a great personality, great passion for the game. Obviously, he's an excellent tight ends coach. And you look, and it was kind of funny when he was with me before. I had him coaching the receivers. When we brought him in, so it's great kind of having him now, even at his most comfortable position. But a wealth of knowledge and experience as a position coach, great personality that I already knew about because I've fit in, and it's a great fit with the staff. I think that's something that's critical of how a guy fits in with the personality of the staff, and he's a great recruiter for us too. And if you're around Brew and just see his his attitude and he's always got high energy, always excited, and that's the type of guy I like to have around. And he's a great, not only just a great football coach on the field and a dynamic recruiter, but also a great personality within our staff and a great fit.
And Dan, any players limited due to injuries?
Possibly, but we'll get into that once we start practice. We got another week to see what they do.
Back to the NCAA transfer potential changes. Unintended consequences. Do you see this as potentially tampering, potentially having to re-recruit?
Well, I think there's always, every rule that they make, there's a lot of unintended consequences that come up that they don't realize. I think, a lot of times rules just get made, and this looks good, and a lot of time it looks good, but there's, if you look, there's not always a lot of coaches on the decision-making part of that. And the people that are like a lot of people that make the decisions aren't, I'm coaching college football 24/7, 365. A lot of the decision makers maybe aren't coaching college football. They've maybe never coached college football even a day in their life. And so they don't know all the little things. So I could probably tell you some of the unintended consequences that'll come up better than others.
Is that the big one?
What's that?
Somebody recruiting right off your roster.
Boy, I bet some of that even goes on now. So I don't know that really makes a whole big a difference, right? I mean, right now you don't know. I mean, there's people saying, "Oh, you can get a waiver." Right. Well, maybe you get it, maybe you don't. So I don't know that. I just think by setting the standard so you know exactly what you're dealing, it allows people to be more informed.
And then secondly, you've made no bones about expectations being high since you got here.
Mm-hmm.
But I think external expectations are going to be at a different level maybe than they were the last 2 years, and rightfully so probably, given what you got coming back. But how do you address that with your team, especially even 6 months out?
No, I mean, it's not something we even need to deal with right now. It'll be something we deal with always dealing with different adversities during the season, whether it's adversity of success or adversity of failures. Both of them bring different adversities to the table. And I'll be honest with you, I think expectations within the program have been high since I've been here. Probably more so. I think year one, once we started to have success, guys started to raise their level of expectation. Last year, we had really high expectations within the team. I think when you add the external part, well, I think that's catching up to where we were internally. And I don't think it's something that really affects you unless we have to, until you get into the season, right? It's because our guys' expectations are high, right now. Does that, you know what I'm saying? So it's not like our team expectations down here and externally we're up here. Our internal expectations probably are just as high as the external. And so that's not something we have to really deal with or address at this point.
Going back to Brewster, was there a sales pitch? Was it just a text?
What,
that
to get
called
him
you
here?
in? Yeah.
You know what, Brew's a guy, but since I've coached with him, I mean, we got a great relationship, so it's someone you always stay in touch with. It's one thing. What I do is, I kind of have my list you have to deal with as a head coach, I guess, is you have your list of, if this guy leaves, these are the guys that are on my call list. And so he's always been a guy that's been on my call list as I put the staff together. So, it's pretty easy once the spot came open that there's a guy that was on your list that was really excited to come be part of this program. It was pretty easy.
And then the past couple of years, we've seen things like Circle of Life drills kick it off. Do you have anything special planned for next week to welcome them back?
No, I mean, for us, I mean, I'm just kind of I'm getting and putting the final touches on our practice schedule. And, one of the things you do is these are all the things I want to get done. Then I re-break it down again and make sure that then we're hitting everything that needs to get done from the offensive staff, everything that the defensive staff needs to get done, and then special team staff. So everybody's covered in there to make those adjustments. We'll have different competitive things that we do in there. And, mine is trying to balance out that we're getting everybody on both sides of the ball. The assistant coaches think they're getting what they need, and then getting what I need as the head coach for our program as a whole with those kind of fun competitive drills.
Dan, you've lost a P. Ryan who did so many things for you. Would you assess your running back situation and how are you going to replace his production?
Well, I think one of the things you do is you look at and make sure you play to the strengths. I mean, one of the things that Mike did an unbelievable job he was a great mismatch in the pass game. He's such a dynamic receiver, and I think that's something that as you see him now moving forward that I think a lot of people at the next level in the NFL are so excited about is his versatility as a running back, and his versatility not just running the ball between the tackles, but his versatility being in the slot or flexed out or creating matchup problems across the board. One of the things we'll see is making sure that our guys might not have that type of receiver skill, but then my job is to make sure we put them in a position to do what they can do well, because you look at the backs coming back. I'm excited to see, we have some couple new faces that'll be in there, but the guys that are coming back, you have a decent idea of what their strengths and skill sets are. That way. And I'm excited to see Malik, hopefully get Malik 100% back. I think coming off the injury, and the injuries he's had, I don't know that he played at 100%. And not that he wasn't 100% healthy, but 100% even in his mental health with confidence being out there on the field last year. So it'll be exciting to get him now confident. I think he's confident, back ready to go, and I think he brings something different, obviously, with Damian and Iverson back that we've seen. We'll see what Lorenzo can do as a new guy, and what we got to do is evaluate all their strengths and then making sure we're putting them in position to be successful.
Also, you've got a lot of new faces that didn't play last year that redshirted coming in your receiver room. Would you talk about some of these young guys?
Well, I'm really excited about that group. You look at the three guys that, played in games but redshirted last year. I'm really excited to see those guys. Now, obviously, they got to pick it up and get used to playing and knowing the scheme and how to get open. But I think I'm really excited because you look at the talent that those guys have is pretty special. And then you also look at, other guys like a Rick Wells who, we're really excited to go see I'm really excited to see how he does this spring now that, he's worked his tail off and now really the opportunity's there for him to go be more of an impact player. I'm excited to see the type of spring that he has.
How important is this period for the transfers to get acclimated into things?
Well, I think for everybody, I think spring ball really is, it's such a learning time. I view spring ball as head coach. I mean, we're going to do a lot of competitive things, but as a team at the end of spring, we're 0-0. And all the coach got to remember that, making sure we're developing and get our guys developed the way that we need them to be developed. And the team's learning the things it needs to learn going through spring. And I think when you tie all those things together and you get it, we want to come out of spring saying, okay, our team's in a good place moving forward to go into fall. with our developmental, we've created the depth. We have this. These are the guys that are ready, that we feel at this point are going to be ready to go and make an impact this fall. Those are all things you have to do when you get through spring. And so it is not just, so, you're looking at new faces. You're looking at guys that redshirted. You're looking at last year, or guys that played limited roles that are going to be in much bigger roles this spring. You're looking at guys that rotated last year. That are they ready to be a star? Are they more rotator? I love to have depth. If we can roll guys through and stay healthy throughout the course of the year, we'll roll through and play a lot of players. So spring's about really trying to evaluate and push guys and develop guys into being ready to go play and take those reps. In my idea, you'd love guys, everybody on the roster, to be playing 40 to 45 plays in a game. A lot of those guys, instead of a guy getting beat up and injured because he had to play 75 because we didn't have depth at a certain position.
Who are you looking for to step in for David Reese, and what's the challenge there for a guy to show that leadership and kind of be the glue?
Well, there's a bunch. You got Ventrell, you got and James Houston, which are there. Mahmoud, Diabate's played both positions. So it'll be interesting with the backers to see. Cedric Brunson had a great year last year, really took some steps forward. So for me to really see how those guys take on, we've had guys play but not be the guy in there. So we're going to try to see, and I know Todd, I think, want to get guys playing both positions and see who can play, who can swing at Mac and Money for us, and who can play both sides, or who's comfortable at one or the other.
Do you ever play the what-if game in your head? Because seeing Jabari's performance at the Combine, I'm sure you saw, was pretty freakish, and they talked about all year having him and even Grenard healthy. I mean, the two losses you had, you didn't have.
It would have been better. I think for him, like I said, that gets down to injuries. Right? I mean, if you're going to see a team that wins the championship is the team that stays healthy. And, it's a shame for him because I think, everybody can see what he can do, and he didn't get to show that on film last year. So I think as people are evaluating his film, I mean, I'm sure he wishes he could have played a little bit more last year right now so that, everybody say, okay, your film matches that Combine performance from last season. And, so, I think that would have helped his cause. Who knows what his draft stock would have been if he would have been able to play the whole year or played more last year. I mean, his draft stock would probably be way higher than it even is now. So I think, that for him, it's a shame that happened. It would have helped the team. But, hopefully we stay healthy for the guys. If you stay healthy, the more you go show out on film, the more you do on film, the higher your draft stock's going to be for the next level, and the more you shot on film, the better it is for our team. I think, it's better for everybody.
You called Brewster a dynamic recruiter a minute ago.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? What makes him so good?
Well, if you ever talk to him, his personality, you know what I mean? I mean, he can talk. I mean, he comes in a room, and his personality he's one of those. He takes over the room. He's one of those. I don't think he's ever walked into a room and not left with more friends than he walked into. And I think, in recruiting, that certainly helps that kind of that personality that he has.
Hey Dan, what's the early feedback on your Australian punter?
I don't know because we haven't punted yet. So my feedback from him is I think he is a tough dude. Now I go through the workouts. I don't know. He's probably worked out at this level before with the intensity of it. But, he is tough, competitive guy. And so I'm really excited to see how he kicks the ball. So I've seen it on film from when he was in Australia. So I'm excited to see it live. Huh? Yeah, he's done a great job of it. Obviously being far away from home.
Have you limited his Chick-fil-A intake?
Oh, has he eat a lot of Chick-fil-A?
Yeah, isn't it one?
That was his big deal?
I think it was, yeah.
I gotcha. He's worked hard though. You get reports like, boy, he competes at a high level, like kind of a tough competitive edge to him, which I like.
With injuries being so critical to the success, do you in year 3 change spring at all? I think you can.
No, I'm not. To be honest with you, because might shock people, but I'm always extremely concerned with the health of our team. I know a lot of people think, oh boy, we better put some restrictions on these coaches out here because to make sure we keep the players healthy. I don't think there's anybody in the United States of America that has more concern for the health of the Florida Gators than I do. And there's probably some surgeon, doctors, people out there saying, oh, no, these coaches don't know. Trust me, there's nobody in America that's more concerned with the health of our players than me. And so that's something we do, and health of our players also involves me making sure they get what they need to be safe and healthy during the course of an entire season as well. Because if I don't do certain things, I'm going to put them at higher risk of injury. And so I pay very close attention to those things. And I don't think that ever really changes for us, from one year to the next. I think, if anything, I know more about the individual players, so that makes it a little bit easier for me because I know the kind of the personalities of different guys and how to manage guys individually more than how it would change the structure of what we do as a team.
You lost all 3 captains. I think you said the Orange Bowl, this is the last game of this team, and then as soon as this is over, the next team. When do those leadership roles start fleshing out? Did it already happen with
They started day one. That team was born back in January, our first team meeting. This year's team was born. Last year's team was laid to rest. That's long gone. And this year's team has a 1-year shelf life. And so, that's already been started and been forming from the first day. And we'll see how it continues to grow and pick up through all the different stages and things we have to deal with. We're wrapping up off-season program this week, and then we get into spring ball. Then we'll get into summer conditioning, then training camp, and then into the season and see how all those roles keep growing.
As a coach, do you have guys in mind that you'd like to see, and maybe you have a conversation with them, say, hey, I need this from you?
Yeah, you try not to do that because, just because I want you to be a leader doesn't mean you're going to be a good leader, and you got to see who really is taking that on to go be in that leadership role. I think we have a lot more guys that are comfortable being leaders now than we had a couple years ago and understand what the expectations of being a leader is.
Are there any of the other signees that you're excited to be seeing in practice? And
every one of them. We've been here they've been on campus for a couple months. I ain't seen them play any football yet. So I'm really excited to go see all of them get out there and go play. And see, I'm excited with their attitude of how they've worked and gone through workouts and developed. And now we get to go see them play some football and see if they're any good. Right? The Stars will tell you, I'm sure they're pretty good or something, but we'll find out. I get to find out.
Dan, do you have that guy that was like Tebow his first year that just had to finish first in everything? Do you have one or two guys like that?
We have a lot of guys that are that way now on the team. I think just that's the edge of our team right now. We have guys that like to compete and know how to compete, and I think that's a big part of it. You hope you have guys that always want to do that thing. Everybody on your roster wants to be that way. So, I remember Tebow here. I watched Tebow not win a bunch of things while I was here. I won't get into the specific stories. I'll let there'll be a lot of arguments over what happened with what. But but I think a lot of our guys love to compete, and I think that's critical.
Anyone who likes to dive chest first on concrete across the finish line?
Oh yeah. We'll have guys that'll do whatever it takes to try to win. And you got to have that mindset.
You guys have a lot of experience coming back at safety, but is that position kind of on the spot a bit this year, you feel? It seemed to be very hit or miss.
Yeah, at times. We'll see. It'll be good. We had some guys that we dealt with different injuries at different times last year and at that spot. But injuries create depth, which is good. So we have some guys back at the safety spot this year. So we'll see how they do. I'd love to get it to when you look at it, and to me, it's always how are we getting our best guys on the field? So that's always my question to the defensive guys. How are we getting our best guys on the field? Who are our best players, and are we getting them on the field at the right times? And so it'll be up to Ron and Todd of making sure we have our best guys within different packages that we can keep the best guys on the field within the secondary. And what guys can do and can't do. You look at a Trey Dean last year who was more comfortable at some spots rather than others, and we just tried him in spots we'd never seen him in there before, but part of that was to try to keep the 5 best guys on the field and how you're doing it, but you also have to do and find where they're comfortable at those spots. And when he's obviously a much better player when he's in the spots he's comfortable with. And we're going to do a lot of that this spring, is find who's comfortable where to make sure we're have the different ways and combinations to always keep our best guys on the field.
Is there any chance he ends up back there?
Yeah, there's a chance anybody can end up anywhere at this point. That's kind of part of spring for us is where are we getting our guys in the best position to help the team. So in the secondary, how are we keeping, our 5 best guys on the field most of the time? You're in nickel a lot of the time. Offensively at receiver, how are we getting our best playmakers on the field at all times? And, how do we keep certain guys on the field? I don't look too much of it into spring because we're experimenting with a lot of things and evaluating things of where they are more than, that's what we're going to be as a team. It's us taking a look at it and see, okay, I see this in him now, even though I saw things I need to see that we would progress to continue in that direction at every position. It'll be interesting on the offensive line, moving some different guys around at different spots to see where they're going to be most comfortable, and then what's the best combination of these 2 guys working together and being next to each other. And they kind of seem to handle being next to each other better than other combinations. And so we'll have a lot of that going on this spring. Yeah, thank y'all.